Great to have you here, my friends. Rush Limbaugh on the EIB network. The telephone number, if you want to be on the program, is 800-282-2882. And the email address, lrushbo@eibnet.com. Mike, grab audio soundbites 16, 17, and 18. Scott Walker, let me jump to that right now. And I'm going to do my best to squeeze all this stuff in here in the 2 hours of the program that we have here, folks, remaining. But there was this thing in Iowa. Hang on just a second. Here we go. All right. I was looking for pictures during the break, and it's a stupid photo app. Anyway, Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker delivered a fiery speech in Iowa Saturday, wowing, this is thehill.com, the conservative crowd with a passionate argument for small government and a passionate argument for his own lengthy resume. Now, we're constantly told, in the drive-by media and even some of the Republican establishment try to portray Scott Walker as a totally colorless guy when he's not. But that's the image that's been set forth. Make no mistake. It's so frustrating in a sense, folks. Scott Walker has shown the Republican Party how to beat the left. Scott Walker has the blueprint for winning and winning consistently and winning big in a blue state with conservative principles that are offered with absolutely no excuses. They threw, the left, the Democrat Party, threw everything at Scott Walker trying to destroy him. They did everything they could. He not only withstood it all, he survived and triumphed over all of it. They broke rules. They got close to breaking laws. They were threatening his family personally, and he remained undeterred. You know, there's a companion story to Scott Walker's success, and it is how union membership in America is at an all-time low. But even more importantly than that, the amount of money being raised by unions from dues is also plummeting. And that has the Democrat Party in a little bit of a panic because that is so much, that's such a great percentage of their campaign spending is union dues, which make up significant union contributions. And Scott Walker is one of the men who has shown everybody how to defeat the unions and their policies. And it's always been amazing to me that he's, in terms of the party, basically been operating in a bit of a bubble, all by himself. So to those of us who know him, to those of us who've heard him speak, to those of us who have studied his career and know how fearless he is and how successful he's been, showing up in Iowa and giving a gangbuster performance is not a surprise. But it's a shock. It's an absolute shock to the media. And it's an absolute shock to some even in the Republican establishment. So much so that they're running around saying, where'd this guy go to get a charisma transplant? Because they thought he was so dull. They thought he was so colorless that he has to have had a charisma transplant or bypass or something. The Wisconsin governor, in rolled-up shirt sleeves, paced the stage as he blasted big government and touted a long list of conservative reforms that he has pushed in blue Wisconsin. The governor also showed a rhetorical flourish that's largely been absent from his previous campaigns, drawing the crowd to his feet multiple times. He said, there's a reason we take a day off to celebrate the 4th of July and not the 15th of April. He was yelling at some points to the point of getting hoarse. Because in America, we value our independence from the government, not our dependence on it. And here, even in thehill.com, says Walker's speech had something for every element of the activist crowd. When was the last time you heard The Hill call the audience at a liberal event an activist crowd? But yet here we are in Iowa. Cokie Roberts thought this thing was so bad that she thinks the Republicans just ought to stay out of Iowa. Republicans should never do no Hawkeye, no primaries, no going in there to get your feet wet and sample the political waters. You know why? Because something happens to Republicans when they go to Iowa and they become these fervent lunatic right-wingers. And nobody's going to ever win as a lunatic right-winger. That's what Cokie Roberts says. Everybody knows the conservatives are going to, they can't possibly win. Meanwhile, if you look at Republican presidential victories and losses in recent years, you find that it is only Republican candidates who ran as conservative or who were that won. The moderate, maybe even quasi-liberal Republican from the Northeast, from New England, they don't have a prayer. They never even come close. Or if they happen to be from Arizona, but they never even come close. And yet, the word on the street is Republicans better stay out of Iowa because, man, what something happens to them, they go into Iowa and they become these extreme lunatic right-wingers. Here's some sound bites, Scott Walker, from his remarks Saturday. It was the Iowa Freedom Summit. That's the name of it. I should have mentioned that at first. And we have 3 sound bites. Here is number 1.
We weren't afraid to go big and to go bold. Maybe that's why I've won the race for governor 3 times in the last 4 years. 3 times, mind you, in a state that hasn't gone Republican for president since I was in high school more than 30 years ago. You see, I think that sends a powerful message to Republicans in Washington and around the country. If you're not afraid to go big and go bold, you can actually get results.
You know, there's a column today at one of the new conservative website, Conservative Review, I believe it is, Daniel Horowitz. And he's got a piece that makes all the sense in the world. It's just common sense. We talk about it all the time here. How do you expect to fight something when you don't believe in it? And his examples are, well, let's take amnesty, Obama's executive amnesty. We conservatives are out there, and we're expecting the Republicans in the House and in the Senate to stand up to Obama. That's what the election results are all about, stop Obama, and to fight for and be opposed to amnesty for illegals. And he says, but we're stupid. Well, not stupid, but we're short-sighted to think that. They're not going to fight it because they don't believe it. And it leads to the rhetorical question, how can you fight anything if you don't believe it? Well, Scott Walker believes in it. That's his point about going bold. That is his point about going big. You believe it. You're passionate about it. You go for it. And you get results. But if you're just going through the motions to try to convince voters or others that you really care about it, but you really don't, it's going to show. And it is showing. Now, this is a great bite because other Republicans are out there trying, you know this as well as I do, a lot of Republicans are trying to speak the language of the left because they think that's the language that people want to hear. So they talk about income inequality. But Scott Walker unabashedly makes the case for tax cuts, and doesn't even try to sound like a moderate, doesn't even try to sound like a Democrat or a liberal.
We've cut taxes. We reduced taxes by $2 billion in the hardworking taxpayers of our state. In fact, we've lowered taxes on employers, on individuals, on property. Our property taxes are lower today in Wisconsin than they were 4 years ago. How many governors can say that? We're going to keep lowering taxes because we understand it's the people's money, not the government's money. That's the difference between the Wisconsin way and the Washington way. In Washington, they keep trying to find ways to take more of your money. In Wisconsin, we want to find ways to give more of the money back to the people who earned it.
Yeah, something he realizes here. Yeah, I have, as you know, I've struggled on the air with you, thinking out loud, speaking while thinking out loud. Why is it that people that do not see government failure? Maybe not the best example, but here you have this thing with the Patriots. Whatever it is, people think they cheated, and they're just outraged about it. And they want something done now, and they want the NFL investigated, and it's such a big story, the network newscasts give it a combined 11 minutes. But yet, when a particular party cheats all the time on voter fraud or violates the Constitution, it's met with a ho-hum. No big deal. Government comes along, claims to want to fix a problem. They tackle the problem, they make it worse. They make it so much worse it needs to be fixed again. Same people come along and say, we're going to fix it. Same people who broke it. Nobody has any outrage. They give government the benefit of the doubt. One of the reasons why is that government is seen as part of the community, which of course it isn't. But government, for so many people, it's just as much a part of the community as the 7-Eleven store down on the corner. And, of course, the people in government who have succeeded in creating that impression milk it for all it's worth. Convince everybody that they're out for them when it's just the exact opposite. Scott Walker's exactly right here. Washington has no intention of getting smaller. They have no intention of letting you keeping more of your money. They have every intention of taking as much of your money as they can. There's no interest whatsoever in government shrinking. There's no interest whatsoever in anything other than government growing. It's just what happens to people in the establishment there. And if it's become part of the community, why, what's wrong with it at all? And if it gets bigger, fine. We want government to be part of our community, but it's not. Government is not part of the community. Wasn't designed to be part of the community, and it isn't part of the community. And I'm talking about the way people perceive it. And Walker here, the way he's addressing all of this makes it clear. Now, this is not a new Scott Walker. This is who he's always been. But he's appearing to be a surprise because there hasn't been a whole lot of reporting on the guy outside of the state of Wisconsin. One more soundbite here from him.
In America, it's one of the few places left in the world where it doesn't matter what class you were born into. It doesn't matter what your parents did for a living. In America, the opportunity is equal for each and every one of us. But in America, the ultimate outcome is up to each and every one of us individually. You see, there's a reason why in America we take a day off to celebrate the 4th of July and not the 15th of April, because in America we value our independence from the government, not our dependence on it.
Now, what you need to know is, and he raised the roof in Iowa, and he came out, and in many people's lists even now, Walker is said to have the greatest odds of getting the Republican nominee. Can you imagine how people like Jeb Bush and Chris Christie and the people who have been pretty much, they've already been coordinated, in a sense, as serious nominee contenders. They've already been coordinated. Well, it's Jeff, it's even, maybe Romney's going to. Scott Walker's name has not even come up, other than on this program. We've interviewed him on the newsletter. We've had him on the air here a couple of times. And I again have to remind you, I can't tell you how many times I have openly expressed my incredulity here that the Republican Party has not, as a national enterprise, attempted to incorporate Scott Walker's blueprint. He's shown how to beat the left. He has shown how to beat the unions. He has shown how to revive a state's economy. He's shown how to cut taxes and increase economic output. He has shown how to increase employment in the middle of an Obama economy. He has done all of this in a state like Wisconsin, big blue state. And it's always been curious to me that Scott Walker has not been, he's big at the Heritage Foundation. He's big in some other conservative groups. But as far as the Republican Party establishment itself, second tier. Looked on as second tier. They speak of him with respect and reference. He's one of their governors. But in terms of presidential politics, you never hear his name bandied about. But I'm going to tell you, the Democrats in Wisconsin are near hysterical over this. They're near hysterical over what he's done to them. They're near hysterical over the accolades he's getting as a result of his appearance in Iowa over the weekend on Saturday. I really think that Scott Walker is the kind of guy the Republicans need to hoist on one of those chairs they used to take Caesar through the crowds with. What he's done in the state of Wisconsin is phenomenal. And nobody knows about it, other than you in this audience. Let me take a brief time out. We'll come back and resume right after this, folks. Don't go away.
Listen.